Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his face with a dirty rag. The engine room of the ship Horizon's Edge was hot and noisy. Sparks flew from broken wires as he worked to fix the damaged docking system. His hands were covered in black grease and his uniform was torn. "Jake, we need that docking bay working now." Captain Lisa Bell's voice came through his radio. "The alien ship is waiting." "Almost done, Captain," Jake said, reaching deep into the machine. "Just need 5 more minutes." Today was the most important day in human history. After traveling through space for months, they had found the first aliens. The aliens called themselves Zephyrians. They looked like humans but had skin that sparkled like crystals. They were very smart and could read minds. The Zephyrian ship was huge. It was 10 times bigger than the Horizon's Edge. It looked like a giant crystal floating in space. Beautiful lights moved across its surface like water. Dr. Alex Carter stood in the main meeting room with the other important humans. He had studied alien life for years but never thought he would meet real aliens. His hand shook as he checked his notes one more time. "Remember," Captain Bell told her team, "we must be very polite. This meeting will decide if humans and aliens can be friends." The Zephyrians had sent a message saying they wanted to meet. They spoke perfect English, which surprised everyone. They said they had been watching humans for a long time. Jake finally got the docking system working. Red lights turned green and machines started humming. "Docking bay is ready, Captain," he said into his radio. "Good work, Jake. Now get cleaned up and join us in the meeting room." But there was no time. The alien ship was already connecting to their ship. Jake could hear the metal parts clicking together. His job was done, but he was still dirty and holding his tools. Amy Rodriguez, the communications officer, was nervous. She had practiced the welcome speech many times. "Welcome to our ship, honored guests from the stars," she would say. The door to the docking bay opened with a soft sound. Cool air came in, smelling like flowers and something else Jake could not name. Soft blue light filled the room. The first alien to enter was tall and beautiful. Her skin looked like white crystal with blue light moving under it. Her hair was long and silver. She wore a flowing dress that seemed to be made of starlight. Behind her came more aliens. An older male with a golden crown on his head walked with great dignity. His eyes were the color of deep space. Other aliens followed, all looking important and wise. Captain Bell stepped forward. "Welcome aboard the Horizon's Edge. I am Captain Lisa Bell. We are honored to meet you." The alien woman smiled. "I am Princess Lyrelei of the Crystal Harmony. This is my father, Emperor Thalorian, and members of our High Council." Dr. Carter bowed deeply. "Your Highness, we have waited so long for this moment. Humanity is grateful for your friendship." Jake stood at the back of the room, still holding his plasma wrench. He tried to hide behind the other crew members. His uniform was dirty and he smelled like engine oil. This was not the place for someone like him. Princess Lyrelei's eyes moved around the room, looking at each human. Her gaze was kind but curious. When her eyes found Jake, something strange happened. She stopped moving. Her silver eyes grew wide. Jake felt something touch his mind. It was warm and gentle, like sunlight. For a moment, he could not think of anything else. The princess was looking right at him, and he could not look away. The room became very quiet. All the aliens and humans stared at Princess Lyrelei. She took a step toward Jake, then another. The humans moved aside to let her pass. "You," she said, pointing at Jake. Her voice was like music. "What is your name?" Jake's mouth felt dry. Jake Morrison, Your Highness. I'm just the engineer." Princess Lyrelei walked closer. Jake could see that her skin really did shine like crystal. Her eyes were the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. "Jake Morrison." She said his name slowly, like she was tasting it. Then she turned to face her father and the other aliens. She also looked at Captain Bell and the human team. "I have made my choice," Princess Lyrelei said in a clear, strong voice. "This one belongs to me now. Jake Morrison is mine." The plasma wrench fell from Jake's hand and hit the floor with a loud clang. The sound echoed in the silent room. Emperor Thalorian's eyes went wide. The alien council members whispered to each other in their own language. Captain Bell's face turned pale. "Your Highness," Dr. Carter said carefully, "I think there might be some confusion about our customs." Princess Lyrelei shook her head. "There is no confusion. I have spoken the words of claiming before witnesses. It is done." Jake stood frozen like a statue. His brain could not understand what was happening. An alien princess had just claimed him in front of everyone. He was a simple engineer who fixed machines. He was not important. Lyrelai, Emperor Thalorian said in a deep voice. What have you done? I have chosen my mate, father. As is my right. The word mate hit Jake like a punch. His legs felt weak. Amy Rodriguez caught his arm to keep him from falling. Captain Bell stepped forward. Your Highness, Jake is honored by your attention, but perhaps we should discuss this privately. The claiming has been witnessed, Princess Lyrelai said. It cannot be undone. More aliens whispered in worried voices. Some looked angry. Others looked shocked. Jake could tell this was not normal even for aliens. Why him? Asked an old alien with a long beard made of crystal. Princess Lyrelai looked back at Jake. Her smile was soft and mysterious. Because when I touched his mind, I felt something I have never felt before. He has the spark we have been looking for. Jake wanted to run away and hide. Instead, he stood there covered in grease while an alien princess claimed him as her mate. This was definitely not in the first contact manual. The next few minutes would change everything for humans and aliens alike. But right now, Jake Morrison could only think one thing. He really should have cleaned up first. 3 hours later, Jake sat in a small room on the alien ship. The walls were made of clear crystal that glowed with soft light. He could see space through them, but the crystal was stronger than any metal. Everything in the room was beautiful and strange. Dr. Carter paced back and forth in the meeting room of the Horizon's Edge. Books and computer screens covered the table. He had been reading about alien customs since Princess Lyrelai made her claim. This is bad, he told Captain Bell. Very bad. How bad? Captain Bell asked. According to what I found, when a Zephyrian princess chooses a mate in public, it becomes law. The whole empire has to accept it. Amy Rodriguez looked up from her computer. But Jake is human. Surely they can make an exception. Dr. Carter shook his head. That's the problem. They've never had to make exceptions before. This has never happened. Commander Roy Griffin slammed his fist on the table. Morrison has doomed us all. The aliens will think we planned this. They'll see it as an insult. Jake didn't do anything wrong, Captain Bell said firmly. He was just doing his job. On the alien ship, Jake stared out at the stars. He had never felt so confused and scared. The alien guards were polite but would not let him leave. They brought him food that tasted like flowers and water that sparkled. The door made a soft sound and Princess Lyrelai entered. She had changed into a simpler dress, but she still glowed like starlight. Jake stood up quickly. Please sit, she said with a gentle smile. I want to talk to you. Your Highness, I think there's been a mistake, Jake said. I'm nobody special. I fix engines and machines. That's all. Princess Lyrelai sat across from him. You are wrong. You are very special. May I touch your hand? Jake hesitated, then held out his hand. When her fingers touched his, he felt that warm feeling in his mind again. It was like coming home after a long trip. What is that? He asked. Essence resonance, she said. It is very rare. Two minds that can connect perfectly. I have never felt it before, but I can't read minds like you can. That doesn't matter. Your mind is clear and honest. It makes beautiful patterns. Most minds are cloudy and hard to read. Yours is like crystal. Jake pulled his hand back. Your father looks angry. Your people look scared. I don't want to cause problems. Princess Lyrelai's face became sad. My people fear change. They think humans are too young and wild. They don't understand that young and wild can be good things. Back on the human ship, Dr. Carter had found more information. Captain, I have good news and bad news. Give me the bad news first. If Princess Lyrelai's claim is rejected, it will be seen as a huge insult. The Zephyrians might declare war on humanity. Captain Bell rubbed her forehead. And the good news? If the claim is accepted, humans will automatically become part of their empire. We'll have access to all their technology and knowledge. Commander Griffin looked shocked. You mean Jake's accident could save humanity? It wasn't an accident, Amy Rodriguez said quietly. Everyone looked at her. I've been watching the video of their meeting. The princess was looking for someone specific. She studied each of us carefully. Dr. Carter nodded slowly. She said Jake has the spark they've been looking for. What if they came here to find him? On the alien ship, Emperor Thalorian met with his council. The room was filled with angry voices. She cannot mate with a primitive human, said High Counselor Velthus. It goes against all our traditions. The law is clear, said another council member. A princess's public claim must be honored. Emperor Thalorian looked tired. Lyrelai has always been difficult, but she has never been wrong about important things. This human knows nothing of our ways, Veltis argued. He cannot even read minds. Perhaps that is why she chose him, the Emperor said thoughtfully. Princess Lirelai knocked on her father's door. Father, may I speak with you? The Emperor dismissed his counsel and sat with his daughter. Lirelai, do you understand what you have done? Yes, father. I have found my mate. He is human. He knows nothing of our culture. He cannot perform the bonding rituals. Princess Lirelai smiled. Then we will teach him. Father, when I touched his mind, I saw something wonderful. Humans think differently than we do. They find new ways to solve old problems. That could be dangerous, or it could save us. Our empire is perfect, Father. But perfect things don't grow. They don't change. We have learned everything we can learn. Jake's people are still growing, still discovering. The Emperor was quiet for a long time. The Council wants me to reject your claim. And what do you want, Father? I want my daughter to be happy. But I also want our empire to be safe. Then test him, Princess Lirelai said. Give Jake a chance to prove himself and his people. Meanwhile, Jake paced around his crystal room. He had been thinking about everything Princess Lirelai told him. Essence resonance, mental connections, finding the spark. It sounded like magic, but so did computers to people long ago. Amy Rodriguez's voice came through his radio. Jake, can you hear me? Amy, how are you talking to me? The aliens let us set up a communication link. Captain Bell wants to talk to you. Jake? Captain Bell's voice was calm but serious. How are you holding up? I'm okay, Captain. Confused, but okay. The princess seems nice, but I don't understand any of this. Jake, listen carefully. Dr. Carter thinks this meeting was planned. The aliens didn't find us by accident. They were looking for someone like you. Someone like me. I'm just an engineer. Maybe that's exactly what they need. Jake, this situation could determine humanity's future. If this goes badly, we might never be allowed in this part of space again. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. What do you want me to do, Captain? Be yourself, be honest. Show them what humans are really like. The door to Jake's room opened again. This time, Emperor Thalorian entered with several guards and council members. Jake stood up straight, trying to look respectful. Jake Morrison. The Emperor's voice was deep and powerful. My daughter has claimed you as her mate. This has never happened before in our history. Your Majesty, I mean no disrespect to your daughter or your people. That remains to be seen. The High Council has decided to test you. High Counselor Velthus stepped forward. You must prove that you and your people are worthy of joining our empire. 3 trials will test your mind, your spirit, and your ability to connect with others. Jake's mouth went dry. What happens if I fail? If you fail, Emperor Thalorian said, your people will be forbidden from entering Zephyrian space. You will return to your small part of the galaxy and never contact us again. And if you succeed, the marriage will be honored. Humanity will become our allies and gain access to technologies beyond your dreams. Jake thought about Captain Bell, Dr. Carter, Amy, and all the people back on Earth. He thought about Princess Lirelai and her kind eyes. He thought about the chance to bridge 2 worlds. I accept your test, he said. Emperor Thalorian nodded slowly. The trials begin tomorrow. I suggest you rest well, Jake Morrison. The fate of your entire species now rests in your hands. As the aliens left, Jake sat down heavily. Yesterday he was just fixing engines. Now he had to save humanity. He looked out at the stars and wondered if he was brave enough for what was coming. Jake woke up in the crystal room feeling nervous. Today was the day of the trials. He had barely slept thinking about what might happen. The aliens brought him breakfast that tasted like honey and starlight. Princess Lirelai came to see him before the trials began. She looked worried but tried to smile. How do you feel? She asked. Scared, Jake said honestly. I don't know if I can do this. You can. I believe in you. She took his hand. Remember, you don't have to think like us. Think like a human. What does that mean? It means find your own way. That's what makes you special. High Counselor Velthus arrived with the guards. It is time, human. The first trial took place in a large room filled with floating crystal spheres. Each sphere glowed with different colors and made soft musical sounds. In the center was a complex machine that hurt Jake's eyes to look at. This is the trial of mind, Velthus explained. You must solve the quantum harmony puzzle. It requires understanding 17 dimensions of space and time at once. Jake stared at the machine. It had thousands of moving parts all spinning and glowing. Numbers and symbols floated in the air around it. Everything was connected in ways that made no sense. Most Zephyrians use telepathy to solve this puzzle, Valthus said. They can see the patterns with their minds. You have no such ability. Emperor Thalorian watched from a balcony above. Princess Lyrelay stood beside him, her hands pressed against the crystal railing. Jake walked around the machine slowly. He couldn't understand the alien math or see the quantum patterns, but he could see how the parts moved. He was an engineer. He understood how things worked. "Can I touch it?" he asked. Valthus looked surprised. "If you wish." Jake put his hands on the machine. It was warm and vibrated slightly. He closed his eyes and felt the movement of all the parts. There was a rhythm to it, like a giant engine. The alien math didn't make sense, but the engineering did. Something was blocking the flow of energy. Jake followed the vibrations with his hands until he found the problem. One small crystal was turned the wrong way. It was so simple that the aliens had missed it. They were thinking about 17 dimensions when the answer was basic mechanics. Jake turned the crystal. The machine's humming changed. All the floating spheres began to glow brighter. The musical sounds became a beautiful harmony. The aliens gasped. The puzzle solved itself in seconds once the energy could flow properly. "Impossible," Valthus whispered. "He solved it in 10 minutes. Our best minds take hours." Princess Lyrelay smiled proudly. Emperor Thalorian looked thoughtful. The second trial was in a place called the Crystal Caves. The walls were made of clear stone that showed Jake's feelings as colors and shapes. As soon as he entered, the crystals began to glow with red and orange lights. "This is the trial of spirit," Valthus said. "The caves will test your emotions. They will show your fears and make them real. Many Zephyrians train for years to pass this trial." Jake walked deeper into the caves. The crystals around him began to show his memories. He saw himself as a child afraid of the dark. He saw his father leaving when Jake was 12. He saw every time he had failed or felt stupid or been rejected. The memories became real. Jake found himself back in his childhood bedroom, hiding from monsters under the bed. Then he was at school, being laughed at by other children. Then he was at his job interview, sure he would be rejected. But something strange happened. Instead of running from these memories, Jake looked at them closely. Yes, he had been afraid of the dark, but he had learned to be brave. Yes, his father had left, but Jake had learned to take care of himself. Yes, he had failed sometimes, but he had also succeeded. "I'm not perfect," Jake said to the crystal walls. "I've made mistakes and been afraid. But that's okay. That's how humans learn." The red and orange lights changed to blue and green. The scary memories faded away. The crystals showed new images. Jake fixing engines, helping his friends, studying hard to become an engineer. "Interesting," Valthus said. He did not try to hide from his negative emotions. He accepted them. Jake walked out of the caves feeling stronger. He had learned something about himself. The third trial was the most difficult. Jake stood in a room full of Zephyrians, all connected to something called the collective consciousness. Their minds were joined together like a huge network. "This is the trial of unity," Valthus explained. "You must join your mind with ours. But humans have no telepathic ability. This trial should be impossible for you." Jake looked at the circle of aliens. Their eyes glowed with silver light. He could feel something like electricity in the air. "How do I connect with you?" he asked. "Open your mind. Let us in." Jake tried to relax and think of nothing, but his human brain was too busy, too full of thoughts and worries. The aliens' minds felt cold and distant. Then he remembered what Princess Lyrelay had said. Think like a human. Instead of trying to empty his mind, Jake filled it with human things. He thought about working with his team on the ship. He remembered how they solved problems together, each person contributing different ideas. He thought about friendship and trust and helping each other. Something amazing happened. The aliens' minds began to warm up. They started to understand what Jake was sharing, the human way of connecting with others. Zephyrians connected through telepathy, mind to mind. But humans connected through actions, through working together, through caring about each other. One by one, the aliens in the circle began to smile. They felt Jake's memories of teamwork and friendship. They experienced human emotions, not through telepathy, but through empathy. "Remarkable," one of the council members said. "He cannot read our thoughts, but he can share his feelings." "This is a different kind of connection," another said. "It's based on choice, not ability." Emperor Thalorian came down from his viewing platform. Jake Morrison, you have passed all 3 trials, but not in the way we expected. Your Majesty, I don't understand most of what happened. I just tried to be myself. That is exactly what made you succeed. You solved our quantum puzzle not with telepathy, but with engineering knowledge. You faced the crystal caves not by hiding your emotions, but by accepting them. You connected with our minds not through telepathy, but through empathy. Princess Lyrelai ran to Jake and took his hands. You showed them what I saw in you from the beginning. Humans think differently. That's not a weakness, it's a strength. High Counselor Veltus bowed deeply. I was wrong about you, Jake Morrison. Your people have much to teach us. But Emperor Thalorian held up his hand. The trials are complete, but the real test is just beginning. Tomorrow, the full High Council will vote on whether to accept this union and welcome humanity into our empire. That night, Jake sat in his crystal room thinking about everything that had happened. He had passed the trials, but he wasn't sure what came next. Through the crystal walls, he could see the human ship Horizon's Edge docked nearby. He missed his friends. He missed fixing engines and solving practical problems. Being special was harder than being ordinary. Princess Lyrelai visited him one more time before the council meeting. Are you ready for tomorrow? She asked. I don't know. Your people still don't trust humans. Some of them looked angry even after I passed the trials. Change is difficult for my people. We have been the same for thousands of years. The idea of learning from younger species frightens them. What if the council says no? Princess Lyrelai was quiet for a moment. Then I will have to choose between my family and my heart. Jake realized how much he was risking for him. I don't want you to lose your family because of me. And I don't want to lose you because of them. Tomorrow we will find out if love is stronger than fear. As Jake tried to sleep, he thought about Captain Bell and Dr. Carter and all the humans waiting to hear their fate. He had done his best in the trials, but the hardest part was still coming. The future of 2 species would be decided by a council vote. And Jake Morrison, the engineer who just wanted to fix things, found himself at the center of the most important decision in galactic history. The High Council chamber was enormous. Crystal pillars reached up to a ceiling that showed the stars outside. Hundreds of Zephyrian council members sat in curved rows, their skin glowing with different colors that showed their emotions. Jake stood in the center of the room wearing clean clothes that the aliens had given him. They looked like his uniform but were made of material that sparkled softly. He felt very small surrounded by so many powerful beings. Princess Lyrelai sat with the royal family. She wore a formal dress that looked like it was made of liquid starlight. Her face was calm, but Jake could see worry in her silver eyes. Emperor Thalorian stood at the front of the chamber. Council members, we are here to decide the fate of Jake Morrison's people. This human has passed our trials, but the question remains. Should we accept his species into our empire? An old council member named Zethros spoke first. Your Majesty, this human has shown some ability, but his people are still very primitive. They use chemical rockets and fight wars among themselves. They are not ready for our advanced civilization. Murmurs of agreement came from many council members. Jake felt his heart sink. Another council member stood up. I agree with Zethros. These humans have only just learned to travel between stars. Our technology is thousands of years ahead of theirs. What could we possibly learn from them? They could learn from us, said a younger council member. But should we risk our perfect society for their chaos? Jake listened to them talk about his species like they were children. Some of it was true. Humans did fight wars and make mistakes, but they also did amazing things. High Counselor Velthus stood up. I have studied this human during his trials. Yes, his people are young and sometimes foolish, but Jake Morrison showed us something important. He solved problems in ways we never considered. One human proving himself does not make an entire species worthy, Zethros argued. Meanwhile, on the Horizon's Edge, Dr. Carter was getting messages from Earth. The news of first contact had reached home, and the government was very interested. Captain, Amy Rodriguez said, Senator Kate Johnson is requesting a quantum communication link. She wants to speak directly to the council. Captain Bell shook her head. The aliens specifically said this decision would be based on Jake alone. If we bring in politicians now, it might make things worse. Commander Griffin paced the bridge. Morrison is just one man. How can they judge all of humanity based on one engineer? Because that's how they think, Dr. Carter explained. Zephyrians believe that individuals represent their entire group. Jake isn't just speaking for himself, he's speaking for all of us. Back in the council chamber, more members were voicing their concerns about humans. They pollute their own planet, one said. They create weapons that could destroy whole cities, said another. They can't even agree on simple things like trade or borders. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. Yes, humans had problems, but they were trying to do better. He thought about all the good things humans had done. The art, the music, the sacrifices people made for each other. Princess Lorelei caught his eye and nodded slightly. She was telling him to speak up. Jake took a deep breath. May I address the council? Emperor Thalorian looked surprised. You wish to speak? Yes, Your Majesty. I want to tell you about my people. A hush fell over the chamber. Jake's voice echoed in the huge space. You're right about many things, Jake began. Humans do make mistakes. We do fight wars and pollute our planet and disagree about important things. We're not perfect like you. Some council members nodded, thinking this proved their point. But that's exactly why you need us, Jake continued. You've told me your civilization is perfect. You've solved all your problems and learned everything there is to learn. That sounds wonderful, but it's also dangerous. Dangerous? Zethros asked. How is perfection dangerous? Because perfect things don't change. And if you can't change, you can't grow. What happens when you face a problem you've never seen before? What happens when your perfect solutions don't work? Jake looked around the chamber. Some council members were listening carefully now. Humans are good at change because we have to be. Every generation faces new challenges. We survive by adapting, by finding new ways to solve old problems. Yes, we make mistakes, but we learn from them. What can your chaotic species teach our advanced civilization? Asked another council member. Jake smiled. Let me tell you about a human named Danny Walsh. He's my best friend and works with me on the ship. Danny failed school 3 times before he learned to read properly. The teacher said he was stupid. Then why do you mention him? Zethros asked. Because Danny sees patterns that others miss. He can look at a broken machine and know exactly what's wrong just by listening to it. He thinks differently because his brain works differently. What others called a weakness became his greatest strength. Jake walked closer to the council members. That's what humans do. We take our weaknesses and turn them into strengths. We take people who think differently and find ways to use their unique abilities. One example does not prove your point, Zethros said. Then let me give you more. Dr. Carter, our scientist, was born poor and had to work 3 jobs to pay for school. That struggle taught him to value knowledge in ways that someone who had everything given to them never could. Jake thought about Captain Bell. Our captain is a woman. For centuries, humans said women couldn't be leaders. We were wrong. Some of our best commanders and scientists and engineers are women. We learned that excluding people based on fear or tradition makes us weaker, not stronger. The chamber was very quiet now. Even the council members who disagreed with Jake were listening. Amy Rodriguez, our communications officer, grew up speaking 3 languages because her family moved around a lot. That gave her the ability to understand different ways of thinking. Commander Griffin used to be our enemy in a war, but now he fights beside us because we learned that former enemies can become strong allies. Princess Lorelei was smiling now. This was what she had seen in Jake's mind. The human ability to find strength in diversity. Your species has achieved perfection, Jake said to the council. But perfection means you've stopped growing. Humans are messy and chaotic and make mistakes, but we never stop trying to be better. What are you proposing? Emperor Thalorian asked. I'm proposing that you need us as much as we need you. You have technology and wisdom that could help us solve our problems. But we have something you've lost. The ability to change, to adapt, to find new solutions. Jake looked directly at Zethros. You asked what chaos could teach perfection. Chaos teaches you how to survive when perfection isn't enough. High Counselor Valthis stood up. The human speaks wisdom. Perhaps it is time for our perfect civilization to learn something new. But Zethros wasn't convinced. Even if we accept his words, how do we know humans won't bring their wars and conflicts to our peaceful empire? Jake thought carefully before answering. Because you'll be there to guide us. Humans learn from teachers and mentors. We become better when we have good examples to follow. You would accept our guidance? Another council member asked. We would be honored by it. But guidance works both ways. Sometimes the student teaches the teacher new things too. Emperor Thalorian looked thoughtful. You speak of partnership, not conquest or submission. Yes, Your Majesty. Humans work best in partnerships. We believe that different people working together can achieve more than anyone working alone. The council began to discuss Jake's words. Some members were clearly changing their minds. Others remained doubtful. Princess Lyreley stood up. Father, may I speak? You may. Council members, Jake has shown you what I saw in his mind from the beginning. Humans don't think like us, and that's exactly what makes them valuable. For too long, our empire has been like a beautiful garden, perfect but unchanged. Jake's people are like seeds that could help us grow in new directions. Queen Mother Saralyn, who had been silent throughout the session, finally spoke. Her voice was ancient and wise. I have lived for 800 years, she said. I have seen our empire reach the heights of perfection, but I have also seen us become stagnant. Perhaps it is time to risk perfection for the chance to discover something greater. The vote was about to begin. Jake had said everything he could. Now he could only wait and hope that his words had been enough to save humanity's future among the stars. The voting crystals in front of each council member began to glow. Blue light meant yes, red light meant no. Jake watched as hundreds of crystals lit up around the chamber. At first, many crystals glowed red. Jake's heart sank as he counted them. But then more blue lights began to appear. The voting was very close. Zethros cast his vote red as expected. But several council members near him chose blue. High Counselor Velthus voted blue without hesitation. Queen Mother Saralyn's crystal glowed bright blue, and Jake saw several members change their votes from red to blue after seeing her choice. When all the votes were counted, Emperor Thalorian stood up. The council has decided. By a margin of 7 votes, humanity is accepted into the Zephyrian Empire. The chamber erupted in surprised voices. Princess Lyreley jumped from her seat and ran to Jake. He caught her in his arms, spinning her around as she laughed with joy. You did it, she whispered in his ear. You saved both our peoples. But Emperor Thalorian held up his hand for silence. The vote is close, which means many still have doubts. Jake Morrison, your people will be welcomed, but they must prove themselves worthy of our trust. What do you mean, Your Majesty? Humanity will begin as junior partners in our empire. You will have access to our technology and knowledge, but you must show that you can use them wisely. Princess Lyreley will serve as your people's guide and teacher. Jake bowed deeply. We are honored, Your Majesty. Humans won't disappoint you. See that they don't, Zethros said coldly. We will be watching. 3 days later, Jake stood on the bridge of a new ship. It was unlike anything humans had ever built. The walls were made of crystal that could become transparent or solid at will. The engines used quantum energy that could travel between stars in hours instead of months. The ship was called the Unity, and it was designed by both humans and Zephyrians working together. Human engineering had made the Zephyrian technology more practical and efficient. Zephyrian knowledge had made human designs more elegant and powerful. Captain Bell, now Admiral Bell, was the ship's commander. Dr. Carter served as the chief science officer, studying Zephyrian biology and culture. Amy Rodriguez had learned to communicate using both human language and Zephyrian telepathy. Jake's title was Chief Integration Engineer. His job was to help humans and Zephyrians work together on new technologies. Princess Lyreley, now simply Lyreley to her human friends, was the cultural ambassador. Jake, Admiral Bell called from the captain's chair. We're approaching the Kepler 442 system. Are you ready for the integration test? Ready, Admiral. Jake looked at the control panel that combined human buttons and switches with Zephyrian thought interfaces. Lyreley, can you help me with the quantum navigation? Lyreley placed her hand on a crystal panel. The coordinates are set. Danny, how are the hybrid engines performing? Danny Walsh grinned from the engineering station. Like a dream, Princess. Human reliability with alien power. Best of both worlds. The Unity flew through space faster than any human ship had ever traveled. In the cargo hold were gifts from Earth, art, music, literature, and examples of human creativity. The Zephyrians had been amazed by human imagination. You know, Lyreley said to Jake as they watched the stars blur past. The council vote was closer than we let people know. How close? 3 votes. If 3 council members had voted differently, humanity would have been turned away forever. Jake felt a chill. That was too close, but you convinced them. Your speech about turning weaknesses into strengths changed many minds. It wasn't just me, It was the idea that different kinds of people working together are stronger than any one group alone. 6 months later, the Unity returned to Earth with amazing news. Human engineers working with Zephyrian scientists had developed new technologies that could clean polluted air and water in days instead of decades. Human doctors learning from Zephyrian healers had found cures for diseases that had killed millions. But the most important discovery was simpler than that. Humans and Zephyrians had become friends. Dr. Carter published papers that were read throughout the galaxy. His work on interspecies cooperation became the foundation for peaceful contact with other alien races. Amy Rodriguez started a school where human and Zephyrian children learned together. Danny Walsh designed hybrid engines that were now being used by ships across the Empire. His learning disability, which had made school difficult, helped him see engineering problems in new ways that impressed even ancient Zephyrian masters. Admiral Bell commanded a fleet of Unity-class ships that explored unknown regions of space. Human adaptability combined with Zephyrian knowledge made them the best exploration teams in the galaxy. Jake and Lirelai were married in a ceremony that mixed human and Zephyrian traditions. Jake wore a tuxedo made of fabric that shimmered like starlight. Lirelai wore a white dress with crystals that sang soft music when she moved. Emperor Thalorian performed the ceremony, speaking words in both languages. Today we join not just two people, but two species in friendship and love. The wedding guests included humans from Earth and Zephyrians from across the Empire. Captain Bell was Jake's best man. Princess Lirelai's sister was her maid of honor. Even Zethros attended, though he still looked skeptical. But he had to admit that the human-Zephyrian partnership was working better than he had expected. 2 years after the wedding, Jake and Lirelai stood on the bridge of their ship, the Unity 2. They were preparing to explore a new sector of space where unknown alien species might live. "Are you nervous?" Lirelai asked. "A little," Jake admitted, "but also excited. Who knows what we'll find out there?" "Whatever we find, we'll face it together. Humans and Zephyrians, different species working as one." Jake looked at his wife, then at his mixed crew of humans and aliens. Danny was teaching a young Zephyrian engineer how to repair plasma conduits using human techniques. Dr. Carter was discussing xenobiology with a Zephyrian scientist. Amy Rodriguez was learning a new alien language from their communications expert. "You know what I realized?" Jake said. "What?" "When Princess Lirelai first pointed at me and said, 'He's mine,' I thought it was the end of my normal life." "It was," Lirelai laughed. "But it was also the beginning of something amazing. I was just an engineer who fixed machines. Now I'm part of something that's changing the galaxy." "You were always special, Jake. You just needed someone to see it." Jake looked out at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there were new worlds, new species, new challenges that would require human creativity and Zephyrian wisdom working together. "Ready for our next adventure, Mrs. Morrison?" he asked. "Ready, Mr. Morrison," she replied. The Unity 2 jumped to faster than light speed, carrying its mixed crew toward whatever wonders waited among the stars. Behind them, Earth and the Zephyrian homeworld continued to grow closer as friends and allies. Jake Morrison had started as a simple engineer who just wanted to fix things. He ended up fixing the relationship between two species and opening the door to a future where humans and aliens could work together to explore the infinite possibilities of the universe. Sometimes the most important discoveries happen when you least expect them. Sometimes a greasy engineer with a plasma wrench can change the fate of entire civilizations, and sometimes love really can bridge the gap between worlds. The story of Jake and Lirelai became legend throughout the galaxy. It was proof that differences don't have to divide people. They can make them stronger. It showed that the best solutions often come from the most unlikely sources. And it all started when an alien princess looked at a human engineer and declared, "He's mine." In the end, they belonged to each other, and their love belonged to the stars.